really serious about this possible new world that we are going to, that we carry in our hearts and that we want to create. And there are many ways of thinking about this, and I was confused by this question for a long time. I started calling it Michelet's paradox. Michelet was a historian of the French Revolution, and he wrote somewhere about, writing about the French Revolution, that history was today. Everything was possible. The future was in present. Everything was but a glimmer of eternity. And the thing is, if it is only a glimmer, then the bureaucrats would come and shut that glimmer, shut the lights off. And that's a big problem. And we need to have to start thinking about this more seriously. Oaxaca, very recently, a beautiful example of revolutionary struggle, organized. It started with the teachers. I don't know how much you know about Oaxaca in Mexico, but it started with the teachers' strike. They demanded shoes for children. Then immediately it erupted into a form of a general strike organized on the basis of direct democracy, popular assembly called APO. But now, after many months of struggle, of imprisonment, of deaths, some of our friends were killed in Oaxaca from the United States, the governor remains in power. So don't get me wrong. These kinds of moments are extremely important. These moments of great efflorescence are wonderful. A women's network that was established, the takeover of the hostile TV station, teacher strike, all of these things were absolutely remarkable. But there was something missing. And I started thinking, what is that is missing? What is that we need? And my favorite historian is E.P. Thompson. He's a British Marxist historian of somewhat older generation. He's usually credited for inventing bourgeois concept. One person can invent something. Inventing revolution or preventing the concept of history from evolving. So E.P. Thompson, between 1955 and 1965, he was writing about this problem, about the so-called transition from capitalism to socialism. And he wrote a few books, books that I would, if I have time to read, books, William Morris and The Making of the British Working Class. They're beautiful books. But in the same period, he wrote another book, which is far less known, called Outside of the Whale. Actually, Out of Apathy and Outside of the Whale was one of the essays. It was a beautiful essay which was kind of talking about the reasons that took Orwell out of this enthusiasm of the 1930s. It's justly celebrated as one of his most famous and beautiful essays. But he also wrote two others in this collection, and I think these are even more important. What E.P. Thompson did, he introduced this metaphor which is, I think, crucial for his work. It's a metaphor of a rabbit warren. And he says there is no hope for the oppositional class until we create rabbit warrens. Rabbit warren, for him, a student of history, was for counter-institutions, this underground passageways, underground dens, created by the oppositional class. So when socialism comes to be, it comes from its own existing strengths, from the positive. It does not come from anything negative. And he was actually a student of the Wobblies. He did know something about the Wobblies. And E.P. Thompson asked us to think about revolution in two ways. We used to call it transition. One way is following Wobbly by the name of Alf Chaplin, and most of you know who that was. He wrote a beautiful song, and one of the verses says, we have to bring to birth a new world from the ashes of the old. Right? But there is another statement from the Wobblies, another sentence from the Wobblies, from the 1908 Constitution of IWW, it says that we need to build the new institutions of the new society within the show of the old. And this is a positive scenario. It's building on the existing strengths. E.P. Thompson said we cannot bring and build socialist humanity from above. We need to let it emerge from below. I guess what our friends, I think the name is Green Anarchy, the website that I got this from, create new world from the ashes of the old. I guess what they were talking about, the idea is, like, for example, the transformation from Roman Empire to feudalism. You know, there is a big catastrophe, conflagration. Out of this, from this pockets of mutual aid, new civilizations emerge. Right? I don't think this is a good way of thinking about it. I think it would be extremely interesting to seriously take into account the idea of a rabbit warren over local institutions. And more I started thinking about this. I started seeing the same pattern happening over and over again across different revolutions. And by now I'm convinced that the successful formula for a revolution or uprising needs to start, to begin with a local institution. Let's call it a rabbit warren, let's call it a local institution, it doesn't matter. But these institutions where people meet to conduct their own affairs. And in times of revolutionary crisis, they take on new responsibilities, new powers, they expand. And after the revolutionary tide ebbs, after this revolutionary crisis, they continue to exist, institutionalized, in a different form, as an extended and expanded version of their former self. And you might ask if this ever happened in history, and I think it did. If we think about revolutionary history of Russia from 1890 to 1918, we can see the same, we can see rabbit warrens and we can see the importance of local institutions. In 1904, in Russia was losing the war with Japan, and the mood in Russia was rather good. And you had these middle-class convocations, the men, Maxim Gorky used to call them men with white gloves, who were talking about the new constitution. You had the students. Students went to the Winter Palace, and some of them were killed. And then you had the workers, who met at the place of a man whose name is Father Gapon. And Father Gapon was writing a draft that basically went there and said, Father, we can't let students go there alone. We need to help them. And so they did. They drafted a petition, and they went to the Winter Palace. So we had few direct actions, pretty mild direct actions, in the context of pre-existing laws. Now, the Bloody Sunday, as it is being called, acts as sort of a spark. We have a huge uprising. We have the police and the army shooting the workers. Many people are dead. And we had all over the Mother Russia, we have strikes, general strikes, and new wars, new local institutions emerging. Their name was Soviet. And the first Soviet was created in another local institution, Petrograd University. The chairperson, unfortunately, of the Soviet was Leon Trotsky. Leon Trotsky is one of the history's intellectual bandits of sorts. And his bad leadership destroyed the potential, serious potential of the 1905 revolution. But nevertheless, Soviets were preserved in the general popular memory. And they were recreated without middle-class intellectuals by the workers and students themselves in 1917. Later on, they were crushed by Bolsheviks, who were switching between factory committees, between Soviets, and crushed both. But regardless of that, that's the story of the Soviets. In Great Britain, you had warrens, local institutions, in the form of the local dissenting churches, local dissenting non-Anglican bodies, out of which the independent Labour Party emerged. In the United States, you had beautiful militias, back in the days of the American Revolution, who would meet every Sunday to practice. Finally, to beat the British, and they did. You had, and if I learned anything studying American labor history, it is that the real stuff, the really interesting developments, are always coming from already existing local institutions, either local unions or their equivalents in the form of fraternal immigrant societies, like burial societies, newspapers, churches, different song societies. These are the places that IWW thrived on, and these are the places that gave birth to CIO, for better or for worse. So we have American civil rights movement. It's impossible for anybody to understand, to even begin to understand the American civil rights movement, if he or she does not accept that student act emerged directly from pre-existing warrens or local institutions, such as college campuses, like the Spelman College in Atlanta, and Baptist churches. These were the local institutions. These were the warrens.